Did you know that the moon landing was accurately predicted 100 years before it actually happened? Buckle up, Future Seers. Welcome to our dazzling tour of prophecies, visions, and mystical foretellings. From centuries-old prophecies to other predictions made just decades ago, we are going to explore some of the most shockingly accurate predictions in recorded history. Come on, time travelers, let's run to the Delorian and grab our copy of Gray's Sports Almanac. It's time to give Marty McFly a run for his time-hopping money. Number 1. The Oracle at Delphi. This mystical oracle was said to have been visited by many great leaders throughout ancient Greece, who sought advice on everything from military campaigns to personal matters. The priestesses provided riddle-like answers from the gods that were sometimes easily misinterpreted. Though these answers from the gods were not always clear and were left open for interpretation, Alexander the Great wanted to make sure his victories were assured prior to taking on his future conquests. Having visited on a day when the oracle was not taking any visitors, Alexander was told to come back at another time. In a fit of rage, he dragged her out of her chambers, at which point she yelled, "You are invincible, my son," that sounded something like he wanted to hear. He let her go, and the rest, as we know, is history. Number 2. Jules Verne's moon landing. Jules Verne wrote a book titled From Earth to Moon about a group of astronauts traveling to our nearest celestial neighbor. That would be the moon, back in 1865, more than 100 years before it actually happened. It is believed that he accurately predicted many aspects of the mission, including liftoff from Florida, which would become home to NASA, splashdown into the oceans of Hawaii, where Apollo 11 eventually landed, and even methods for calculating trajectories. Number 3. The stock market crash of 1929. Did you know that in 1919, some economists warned investors that stock prices had gone up too high too fast and advised them to sell before it was too late? Alas, their predictions were met with scoffs and laughter as investors twirled their mustaches and basked in their newfound wealth. They dismissed the warnings and assumed they were merely peculiar economists lost in the labyrinth of numbers. Fast forward 10 years and the scene shifts to the infamous beginning of one of the darkest periods in our economic history, the Great Depression. The Great Depression descended upon the nation, casting a dark shadow over the land of opportunity. Banks crumbled like sandcastles, businesses closed their doors with a mournful creak, and the unemployed wandered the streets with hopelessness etched on their faces. The once bustling cities became ghost towns, haunted by the glimmers of financial excess. If only they had heeded the warning, perhaps the tale would have been different. Number 4. Scientific discoveries by Galileo Galilei. Using a handmade telescope, Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei found 4 moons orbiting Jupiter on January 7, 1610. Looking at what he believed to be a cluster of stars, he saw that the objects had a predictably stable manner. The natural world was understood at the time to be moving in the wrong direction, as these objects were moving. After a few weeks, Galileo realized that what he was seeing was not a star, but rather something orbiting Jupiter. The Galilean moons are the names given to Jupiter's 4 largest satellites today: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, in honor of their discoverer. The Copernican theory, the notion that nothing existed that moved around the Earth, was supported by Galileo's discoveries. Galileo, a mind far ahead of its time, made groundbreaking discoveries about the solar system, which fundamentally shifted our understanding of the universe and influenced the growth of contemporary astronomy. Number 5. Albert Einstein's prediction. Einstein was like a literary mad scientist with a touch of wizardry thrown in for good measure. With his unruly hair, mischievous grin, and brain full of celestial wonders, he was a force to be reckoned with. Einstein's prediction of gravity waves was no ordinary hypothesis. It was like a thunderclap in the scientific community, setting off a frenzy of curiosity and excitement. Scientists all around the world scurried about, setting up experiments and searching for these elusive waves. They aimed to catch them red-handed, red-handed, like cosmic criminals sneaking through the night. Years turned into decades, but still, no one had managed to detect these wily gravity waves. Many skeptics shook their heads, dismissing Einstein's prediction as a mere flight of fancy. But true believers clung to his words, their hopes bolstered by the sheer audacity of his ideas. Then, one day in 2015, a triumphant cry echoed through the halls of scientific institutions everywhere. A team of scientists working at the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, LIGO, had finally captured the elusive gravity waves. Number 6. Alan Turing's computer breakthroughs. Outside of showing the genius of Alan Turing through the movie The Imitation Game, this British mathematician wrote about how computers could make decisions based on certain algorithms back in 1945, long before computers were invented. His revolutionary ideas would later lay the foundation for programming languages like C++ and Java, as well as machine learning technologies used today. Number 7. Isaac Asimov's Laws of Robotics. Science fiction author Isaac Asimov wrote stories set far into the future about robots becoming intelligent enough to think for themselves, but needing limitations set upon them so they wouldn't harm humans. Not unlike what we are seeing today with debates around AI development involving ethics and safety. Skynet, anyone? Number 8. Mayan Prophecy. You know the Mayans, the folks who had a thing for calendars. They were not your average run-of-the-mill ancient civilization. They had a flair for the cosmic and the complex, particularly when it came to mathematics, stargazing, and marking their calendars. It is also said that they predicted their own Game of Thrones-style downfall with the Spanish conquest. Even though that piece is more myth than fact, let's dial back time and give you a taste of their top chartbusters. The Mayans were quite the astronomical overachievers. They could predict solar and lunar eclipses with a swagger that would make modern scientists green with envy. They understood the lunar cycle like the back of their hand, figuring out the length of the lunar month with impressive precision. If there were an award for most complicated calendar, the Mayans would win it, hands down. Their long count calendar had more twists and turns than a roller coaster ride, keeping track of events over mind-boggling stretches of time. The famous cycle ends every 5,125 years, with the last one wrapping up in 2012. Now, some folks misinterpreted this as the Mayans predicting a grand apocalypse. But let's be clear, the Mayans were calendar creators, not doom-mongers. The end of a long count cycle was probably just their version of throwing a New Year's Eve party. The Mayans also had a bit of an obsession with Venus. This bright celestial beauty held a VIP status in their mythology, and its cycle was a timer for their religious and ceremonial shenanigans. In fact, they had such a good handle on Venus that they could calculate its period, time taken to return to the same position relative to the sun, with a jaw-dropping accuracy that would make a Swiss watchmaker blush. The Mayans weren't just head in the stars kind of people. They knew how to get their hands dirty too. Using their astronomical know-how, they could predict agricultural cycles with stunning accuracy. These cosmic farmers knew exactly when to plant their corn and when to harvest, all based on their observations of the seasons and heavenly bodies. So, the next time you're struggling to predict tomorrow's weather or remember a birthday, spare a thought for the Mayans. They had lunar cycles, complex calendars, Venus's journey, and planting seasons all figured out. Now that's multitasking. Do you believe in predictions? Have you ever predicted something and it came to pass? Subscribe to our channel for more fun facts to share with your friends.